The world is on edge as the United States officially joins Israel in launching direct airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Explosions have rocked Natanz and Isfahan, and Tehran is vowing massive retaliation. U.S. bombers and Israeli jets are in full coordination, a move that could spark a new Middle East war. Iran's forces are on high alert, oil prices are surging, and global powers are warning of catastrophe. This could be the most dangerous moment in decades. The question now, has World War III just begun? Welcome back to the War Lens. The world is once again on the edge of a historic conflict, one that could reshape the Middle East and ignite global instability. Reports are flooding in that the United States has officially joined Israel in direct military operations targeting Iran's nuclear facilities. This unprecedented move marks the most significant escalation in the region in decades, setting the stage for what some are already calling the beginning of a new regional war. Tensions between Washington, Tel Aviv, and Tehran have been simmering for years, but tonight they've boiled over. According to early intelligence reports and multiple confirmed sources, U.S. Air Force strategic bombers operating alongside Israeli F-35 squadrons launched coordinated precision strikes on several suspected Iranian nuclear enrichment sites, including facilities near Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. These are the heart of Iran's nuclear program, heavily fortified, deeply buried, and long considered untouchable without triggering a massive regional backlash. The strikes reportedly began late in the night, synchronized to minimize detection and maximize impact. Israel initiated the first wave, deploying long-range missiles and drones designed to overwhelm Iran's air defenses. Within minutes, U.S. assets joined in, launching bunker-busting ordnance specifically developed to penetrate reinforced underground structures. Early footage circulating on social media shows massive fireballs lighting up the Iranian skyline, though official confirmation remains limited as both sides maintain strict control over the flow of information. Iranian state media has already condemned the attacks, labeling them as acts of war, and vowing a swift and devastating response. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has declared a state of full military readiness, mobilizing missile batteries across the country. Reports indicate that ballistic missile units in Khuzestan and Bushehr have been put on alert, with potential targets including U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf, Israel's coastal cities, and possibly even Western naval assets in the region. This marks the first time in recent history that the U.S. has directly participated in offensive military operations against Iranian territory, a move that could have global consequences. For years, Washington maintained a policy of deterrence, preferring sanctions, cyber operations, and covert measures to restrain Iran's nuclear ambitions. But the decision to take military action signifies a dramatic shift, one that signals not just solidarity with Israel, but also Washington's determination to prevent Iran from crossing the nuclear threshold. The timing of this escalation is no coincidence. In recent months, intelligence assessments suggested that Iran had accelerated uranium enrichment beyond 90% purity, dangerously close to weapons-grade material. Western analysts believe Iran was just weeks away from assembling a nuclear device. That urgency, coupled with rising tensions after a string of Iranian-backed attacks on Israeli and U.S. assets across the Middle East, may have forced Washington's hand. At the United Nations, emergency meetings have already been called. Russia and China have condemned the strikes, calling them violations of international law and warning that such aggression could destabilize the entire region. Meanwhile, NATO allies remain divided. The United Kingdom and France have expressed cautious support for Israel's right to self-defense, while Germany and Italy have called for immediate de-escalation and diplomatic intervention. Inside the U.S., political reactions are already polarized. Supporters of the strike argue that the operation was a necessary step to ensure regional security and prevent a nuclear-armed Iran. Critics, however, warn that this could drag the U.S. into yet another endless conflict in the Middle East, risking American lives and resources at a time when global tensions are already high. With Russia's war in Ukraine and China's growing assertiveness in the Pacific, Washington now faces the possibility of confronting multiple adversaries across different fronts. In Israel, the mood is one of grim determination. Prime Minister's office issued a brief statement declaring the operation a historic necessity to safeguard the future of the Jewish state. The Israeli Defense Forces have placed the nation on full alert, preparing for potential Iranian retaliation through Hezbollah or other regional proxies. The northern border with Lebanon is being reinforced, and missile defense systems like Iron Dome and Arrow 3 are fully active. Iran, however, is not without options. Within hours of the strike, pro-Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria began mobilizing, pledging to retaliate against American and Israeli targets. Yemen's Houthi movement, another Iranian ally, has threatened to launch long-range drones and cruise missiles toward Israel and Saudi Arabia. The entire Middle East now feels like a tinderbox, one miscalculation away from full-scale war. Energy markets reacted instantly. Oil prices spiked above $120 per barrel within hours of the first reports, as traders feared a prolonged conflict could choke off vital shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage through which nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply flows. Global stock markets plunged, with defense companies seeing sudden surges in value as investors braced for instability. Washington has also moved naval forces closer to the Persian Gulf, including aircraft carriers and destroyers equipped with Aegis missile defense systems. The Pentagon announced that all U.S. personnel in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf region are now under heightened security protocols. Evacuation plans are being prepared for non-essential embassy staff in key Middle Eastern capitals. Tehran's leadership has framed the strike as proof of U.S. Israeli aggression and has called upon the Muslim world to unite against what they call Zionist and Western imperialism. Massive protests have erupted in Tehran, Baghdad, and Beirut, with demonstrators chanting anti-American and anti-Israeli slogans. The supreme leader of Iran declared that those who started this fire will burn in it, signaling that retaliation is not just expected but inevitable. Cyber warfare has also begun to play a role. Reports indicate that Iranian hackers have launched massive cyber attacks targeting U.S. infrastructure, financial systems, and government websites. In response, American cyber defense agencies are on high alert, warning of potential retaliatory strikes in cyberspace that could disrupt communication networks and power grids. Analysts are warning that the situation could spiral rapidly out of control. If Iran chooses to retaliate directly against Israel or U.S. forces, it could trigger a regional conflagration involving Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and even the Gulf monarchies. Israel's military has already begun evacuating residents near its northern border, fearing Hezbollah missile attacks. Meanwhile, the U.S. Central Command has reinforced its positions in Qatar and Bahrain, signaling readiness for a sustained campaign. Diplomatic channels are still open, but barely. Qatar, Oman, and Turkey have all offered to mediate and de-escalate the crisis, but neither Tehran nor Washington appears willing to back down. The Iranian leadership views any compromise as weakness, while U.S. officials insist that diplomacy only works when backed by credible military force. As of now, the scale of damage inside Iran remains unclear. Satellite images analyzed by independent defense experts suggest that at least 2 major nuclear facilities sustained significant damage. Radiation monitoring stations near Isfahan have detected elevated levels, though officials deny any leaks. If confirmed, this would mark the most successful attack against Iran's nuclear infrastructure since the Stuxnet cyber operation over a decade ago. The global reaction continues to unfold. China has called for restraint, warning that continued escalation could threaten global trade and energy stability. Russia, already isolated due to its war in Ukraine, may see this as an opportunity to strengthen ties with Tehran and expand its influence in the Middle East. The European Union has convened emergency talks to discuss sanctions, humanitarian aid, and the potential flood of refugees if the conflict expands. Meanwhile, on the ground, humanitarian organizations are already bracing for the worst. Air raid sirens have been reported across major Iranian cities, and thousands of civilians are seeking shelter. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and communication lines are breaking down. The fear of all-out war is spreading fast, not just in Iran, but throughout the region. For Israel and the United States, the initial phase of the operation appears to have gone according to plan. But both nations now face a difficult question: what comes next? History has shown that striking first does not always guarantee lasting security. Iran's ability to absorb damage, regroup, and retaliate is well known. Its network of regional militias, cyber units, and ballistic missile forces gives it multiple avenues to respond. In Washington, national security officials are holding round the clock briefings, preparing for potential Iranian attacks on U.S. forces or interests abroad. American allies in the Gulf, particularly Saudi Arabia and the UAE, are also on edge, fearing that they could become targets in Iran's retaliation campaign. Anti-air systems have been activated across the region, and commercial air traffic is being rerouted away from potential conflict zones. As this conflict unfolds, one thing is certain: the Middle East has entered a new dangerous era. The fragile balance of power that has kept major war at bay for years is now collapsing. The U.S. and Israel's decision to strike Iran's nuclear infrastructure has not only escalated military tensions, but has also redrawn the lines of global politics. The coming days will determine whether this marks the beginning of a short, targeted campaign, or the start of a prolonged, devastating war. The world watches as the skies over the Middle East burn with uncertainty. Nations are taking sides, alliances are hardening, and peace feels more distant than ever. The consequences of these strikes will echo far beyond Tehran or Tel Aviv. They will shape the future of international security, global economics, and the balance of power for years to come. Stay tuned to the War Lens as we continue to track this breaking story, analyzing every move, every statement, and every escalation in what could be one of the most consequential military confrontations of the 21st century. The situation is fluid, the stakes are enormous, and history once again is being written in real time.